What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the changes in Fortnite's newest update, and this is a pretty significant update to Chapter 7, Season 3. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you think of these changes, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolvedJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So the first and most impactful of these changes, in my opinion, is going to be that the Chaos Reloader shotgun was vaulted. And so I think this is a huge change because shotguns and the shotgun meta have a very large impact on how Fortnite typically plays, and the Chaos Reloader shotgun was pretty much definitively head and shoulders above the other shotguns. It had really high damage potential, very forgiving damage in terms of like you only really need to hit body shots to, you know, get a lot of damage. You don't have to really hit a good headshot to get good damage with the shotgun. And while its downside of only having one shot and then it has to reload was there, the fact that it reloaded on its own made that not really a factor. So I feel like ever since this weapon got added last season, it was incredibly unbalanced and didn't really make any sense. So having it removed from the loot pool, I think, is an incredible change. And one of the biggest changes that they could have made to actually improve this season and freshen it up. Because with Season 3, we did get 3 different shotguns in the loot pool. We have the Extending Focus shotgun that's new, the Maven Auto shotgun returning, and the Striker Pump. And having 3 new shotguns or 3 different shotguns in the loot pool should change the game pretty significantly season to season, right? But with the Chaos Reloader returning, it just kind of took all of the room that those shotguns could have potentially had to be viable, I think, and removing the Chaos gives a lot more room for other shotguns to shine. And as it is now, I think the shotgun meta is pretty open. I think you could make a case for either of these shotguns being the best. I think the Striker Pump probably will end up being the best, or the one with the highest ceiling if your aim is good. But the Striker Pump is not a very forgiving pump. Its fire rate is pretty low for a pump, and the damage, it's hard to get good damage with this shotgun. You need to hit a good headshot to get good damage, and since the crosshair is really small, that isn't always the easiest thing to do. And that's why people say it's a really inconsistent shotgun, because it doesn't have a very forgiving damage spread or like reticle size to where you just always get some amount of good damage like we saw with the Chaos Reloader. So I think the Striker Pump is a decently difficult pump shotgun to use. The Maven Auto shotgun is a somewhat mid auto shotgun, which again, I think it has room to shine now. Compared to the Chaos Reloader, you know, not really at all. But now I think the Maven, you know, has some potential room. And then the Extending Focus I played with the least, but I feel the same way. When the Chaos Reloader was in the game, it just felt like, why would I ever want to use this? And now with the Chaos Reloader being gone, it maybe has a chance to be, you know, a weapon that shines. So I think removing the Chaos Reloader, very good change. Most people will probably prefer the Striker Pump or the Maven at this point. It just kind of depends on your aim and preferences. Another change to the loot pool in this update is going to be that the Warforged AR was added. This is a Chapter 5 assault rifle, and it has been reworked like how every other Chapter 5 weapon has been since its return. So you can no longer put attachments on it. It's no longer projectile, so you don't have to worry about bullet drop or bullet travel time. It has significantly less recoil than it did in Chapter 5, and then it also has, you know, lower DPS as well. So it's a very generic assault rifle. It's a, you know, solid fire rate, solid damage. The bloom isn't the most accurate thing ever, but it's also not the least accurate. I think this is, like I said, just a very generic kind of jack of all trades assault rifle. And there is potential for that to be something that's useful. I didn't mind using it when I used it today. And I think a lot of people are going to look at this as like, oh, that could be good in a 2-gun setup with just like the Striker Pump and that. And I definitely think that could work. But I think the Ranger pistol probably just does that playstyle better. And a lot of people are going to prefer the Ranger pistol because it does have much better accuracy. So when comparing the Warforged AR and the Ranger pistol, I feel like they're kind of competing for the same slot or a similar playstyle. And I think a lot of people are going to end up preferring the Ranger pistol, but I didn't mind using the Warforged at all. Like I said, it's a solid kind of generic assault rifle. Another change in this update that I think was incredibly good is going to be that the Chaos Exploder was nerfed. So the gray version was removed from floor loot, so you're only going to find green and higher from floor loot, which I assume would mean that it's just less common as a floor loot option. The damage was reduced by 18%, which it comes out to about 4 to 6 damage depending on the rarity. The higher rarities kind of lose more damage, but minus 4 to 6 damage on an assault rifle is a somewhat, you know, significant change. But one improvement they did make to it is that it has no damage fall off anymore. So it just has that one damage that it's going to do forever. I believe this weapon does has like bullet drop or bullet travel time at range, and it still has the exploding aspect, unfortunately. So I think this is a nerf you're going to notice. Does it make the weapon irrelevant? No. it's still an annoying weapon to play against. Even if this wasn't really that good, the nature of it just being exploding and flashing in your face and all that stuff, like it's always going to be a very like disorienting or like tilting weapon to play against. But I do think these damage reduction will be something that's actually noticed, especially when you combine this with like the other changes. If you look at like the launch version of the Chaos Exploder to where it's at now, it has been nerfed significantly, and it's still probably pretty good, and that kind of just goes to show how busted this thing was at launch. So another nerf to the Chaos Exploder I'm happy with, but they didn't nerf it to the point of obscurity, which is something I would be down for. If they just nerfed this weapon to the point where it was useless, I would be very happy with that, because I would also just be down for it not existing, and I think a lot of people in the Fortnite community would probably agree with that. The boots were kind of buffed in this update. The fuel cost was reduced by 33%, meaning you're going to run out of fuel slower, and I believe that means that basically is like how long it goes to before it overheats. So you're going to be overheating less when using these, which is a good thing, but you can no longer get the mythic version from chests. And I believe this means that you can only get them from like the Earth Sprite or the Dream Sprite activation, maybe the Burnt Peanut Sprite activation as well. I'm not sure what other ways there was to get this other than chests. I thought you just got it from chests, but some sprites can get it as well. So less mythic boots to go around, probably a good thing. But I think that also is like an indirect buff to the Earth Sprite and the Dream Sprite, because if you are someone who really wants to get the mythic boots, those are probably going to be your best bet at this point. So there's more of a reason to use them. Speaking of sprites, several of the sprites did get rebalanced in this update as well, or get buffed. The Ghost Sprite levels 1 to 3 got an extra second of invisibility, and level 4 got an extra half second of invisibility, and level 5 is still the same of 5 seconds invisibility. So the Ghost Sprite got a buff at the lower levels. The Duck Sprite got an increased amount of shield per tick at each level, and it now starts at 2 and caps out at 8. So if you have a level 5 Duck Sprite, you're going to be getting 8 shield per tick that you emote, which puts it in line with the Water Sprite, I believe. Initially, it was lower than the Water Sprite. The King Sprite got a pretty large buff at the higher levels, and now will deal 120 pickaxe damage at level 5. I don't think this is going to be the biggest deal for Zero Build. Like, I don't think going and pickaxing people is really going to be a play that works out well, especially when other people have... they could just like jump and slide away from you and stuff. A lot of the melee weapons that have been good in Fortnite have somewhat of like a lunge ability, or I don't know how to describe it, but like the range of the attack is a lot larger than the pickaxe swing. And so, you know, there might be some moments where you do funny plays with the pickaxe, but where I think this is really going to be noticed is going to be maybe for early game looting, like pickaxing into houses and stuff, but also in build mode. In build mode, I would assume like farming mats and replacing walls and all that stuff gets a lot faster when you have the max level King Sprite. So I feel like that's a change that's more so for build mode than it is Zero Build. The Demon Sprite also got an increase to its amount of siphon. It got increased by 5 for every level. So a level 1 Demon Sprite now gives 10 siphon when you eliminate somebody, and a level 5 Demon Sprite gives 30 siphon when you eliminate somebody. And if you combine that with the Overshield that we get back from eliminating somebody in Zero Build, that's about 80 siphon when you eliminate somebody, which isn't irrelevant. It's pretty helpful, but like 50 of that is built in just for playing the mode you don't need the Sprite for. So I'm happy to see that Sprite get buffed. My two favorite sprites were already the Demon and the Ghost, and so them getting improved is nice to me. And like I said earlier, I feel like removing the mythic boots from regular chests is like somewhat of a buff to the Earth and the Dream Sprite, because that's like the main way you can get the mythic gloves, or the mythic boots now, sorry. The Peanut Sprite was also added today. This will give you extra loot when you eliminate enemy players, and there is a potential for mythics. It says, I would assume like at level 5, there's like a chance for you to get a mythic or something like that. As far as sprites go, this is, you know, a somewhat good ability. Extra loot is something that could potentially help you or improve your game, but also having a very rare sprite like this, at least at the moment, I think is somewhat of a disadvantage to use, because other people are going to see it on your back and want to eliminate you. So the extra loot could be nice, but the extra level of like attention or like passion you get from enemy players might not make it worth using. And there was also a new rarity of sprites added called Gummy Sprites, and these give you 10% extra dust when extracting. So the gold sprites give you extra XP for using them, the Gummy Sprites give you extra dust, and the different sprite types that come in throughout the course of the season will grant different abilities like that on top of the ability that the sprite already does. So if you're trying to farm dust, the Gummy Sprite would be your best bet, but it's not something that's really gonna, you know, change combat or change like how you play a match out too much. I feel like the extra dust is nice, but it's not super game changing. Using that on top of the extra dust we get on Mondays would probably be the most optimal way to farm dust. But that is going to be it for this video. I think is very good. As I said, just removing the Chaos Reloader, I think makes the shotgun loot pool a lot more interesting and a lot more open for other weapons to shine, and makes close range fights less just like every single player is hitting you for triple digits immediately. So, and if they do hit you for triple digits immediately, they probably hit a pretty good shot. So I am definitely in favor of this change. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you guys did find this video to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.